one of those ultrasound so we could see the baby and see what's going on. So she was like, we don't see no baby. Y'all, I was so disappointed. I cried. I cried so much. It was like my first time experiencing a miscarriage. All right, guys. So today I'm gonna have a little story time on that time when I got pregnant by the love of my life. Okay, and then I ended up having a miscarriage. So, all right, let's go back. All right, when I was 17, I met this guy, and I was in foster care at the time. And I think I was 16. Yeah, I think I was 16. 16, met this guy, a very nice guy. And, me being in foster care, it was horrible for me. And he was just like the type of person who was like, oh, like, let's go out. He always wanted to take me out. We would wear like matching jackets, 8-ball jackets. And, I was on that fly shit. But yeah, matching 8-ball jackets. And we used to always go on dates. And one day we were supposed to go out and he never showed up. That wasn't like him. So I called him. I was calling him. No one answered. I called his mom. His mom was telling me like, oh, like, he have a hole in his heart. He's not feeling good or whatever, whatever. Anywho, come to find out, he was locked up. So that kind of break us up. We never talked back from when he was locked up. So about how many years went by? Like about 10 years went by. And he happened to look me up online, do like a Google search on me. And that's when he find my address and my phone number. So one day I'm at home and I got a phone call on my home phone. And I see the person name pop up. Remind you, that person was the love of my life. So I know his name. His name pop up. And I was like, am I a dream? Is this a dream or something? Like, this can't be. So I answered the phone and he was like, hey, this is so and so. And he was like, can I speak to Nat? And I'm like, yeah, speaking. And he was like, you know who's this? And I was like, no, who's this? And then he told me his name. I'm like, what? Are you serious? I have to try to keep my calm because, come on. That was somebody I really, really like. Anywho, he was like, yeah, this is Nat, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, how did you get my number? And he was like, he Googled me. He'd been seeing the address and he was going to pop up over there, but he didn't know if I was in a relationship or something or whatever. Anyway, we start talking from there. And it was like, even though we start talking from there, I'm going to be honest, the relationship was not like how it used to be like when we first met. But of course, we was both grown and we both have kids with other people. So of course, we not going to be the same person. So we start catching up on what happened in the past. And I'm like, yo, what happened? Like, we were supposed to go out that day. And I was calling you. I didn't hear from you. So he was telling me that he was in jail. He got locked up. And he didn't want to tell me because, like certain lifestyle he was living, I didn't know about. And he didn't want me involved in those stuff. So he was like, and not only that, I thought you was gonna judge me or whatever. Because back then I was a good girl. I was a goody goody girl, like one of them quiet girls. Laugh. I like to laugh and stuff like that. I was into my books and stuff like that. So he was like, oh, you was a good girl. I didn't want you to get involved in certain things or whatever. And he was like, I never forget about you. I always think about you. Anywho, it was like 2 years later. Had After we've been talking, or before I even go there. After when he came back in my life, it was like on and off with us. Like it wasn't really there like how we had it before. It was like a lot of misunderstanding when we talked to each other. He wasn't really understanding me, and I wasn't really understanding him. So it was like on and off. Anywho, but he was still a good person. Like if I needed him, he would be there for me and stuff like that. You know. But anywho, it was like 2 years after when he came in my life, I ended up getting pregnant. And it's funny because the time when I got pregnant, the year before, I lost my sister. And the same day I lost my sister, it was the same day I got pregnant. So I was like so excited. I was so excited. Like, you know how it feels to be pregnant by somebody that you actually love and in love with. So I was just so, 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 so happy. Anywho, I was going to EMT training and when I was in that training, I got into a little fight with one of the girl, and I went to the doctor just to check on the baby to make sure the baby was okay. And the doctor said, yeah, the baby was fine. They checked. They said it wasn't no problem. Anywho, 2 weeks later, I just started bleeding like crazy. So I run to the doctor. They went and checked and they was like, they don't see no problem. Everything is okay. When I got home, I stopped bleeding for like a couple of days. Then I started bleeding back. So I went back to the emergency room to find out like what's going on, like why the hell I'm bleeding so much. So the doctor was basically telling me like it could be that my blood type, the baby's rejecting my blood type, and I might have to get a blood infusion. I never heard of that a day in my life, but you know me, I believe in God. I'm not putting nobody blood up inside of me. So I was like, listen, it ain't gonna go. Anywho, one day I went back to the doctor. And when I went back to the doctor, no, actually, I changed my doctor because I'm like, I'm bleeding, something is not right. And the doctor I was going to, it seemed like they couldn't really help me with what was going on with me. So I decided to change and go to a new doctor. When I have that first appointment with that new doctor, she did some tests. She ended up doing a pregnancy test and some blood work. And then she called me in the office. So she was like, who told you was pregnant? And I told her like the other doctor I was going to did a urine pregnancy test, and I also did like a blood test, and they the one that told me I was pregnant. So she was like, you sure? And I'm like, yeah, like what's going on? So she's like, sit down, I don't want to disappoint you. So I'm like, what's going on? So she was like, well, with the pregnancy test, it came back negative. So I'm like, what you mean it came back negative? So she was like, we're gonna do like one of those ultrasound so we can see the baby and see what's going on. So she was doing the ultrasound and all that. And she was like, we don't see no baby on a monitor. So I did let her know like I was bleeding a lot. And then she was like, maybe when you was bleeding a lot, maybe you was having a miscarriage that whole time. So I'm like, but why no one let me know that? But she was like, do you want to talk to a counselor? Somebody? Yeah, I was so disappointed. I cried. I cried so much. It was like my first time experiencing a miscarriage. And it hurted so badly. When I see other women pregnant, I just start crying. When I see a woman with a baby, I just start crying. And I cry even more because it was by somebody I was truly in love with. Somebody I really, really love. Like, do you know how it feels to get pregnant by somebody that you love so much? So I cried. I was depressed for a while. I'm never going to hold you. I was depressed, but I was telling myself, like, listen, God, I'm not going to question you. Whatever you say, go.